Lecture number 3. This lecture is presented by Dr. Tim Anderson, with support by me, Heather, a system-generated narrator.
Hello and welcome to this week's lecture, Chapter 2, Global E-Business and Collaboration. This week we're going to define and describe the business processes and their relationships to information systems, evaluate the roles played by systems in serving the various levels of management in business and their relationships to each other. We'll also explain how enterprise applications improve organizational performance. Finally, we're going to explain the importance of collaboration and teamwork in business and how they are supported by technology. We're going to assess the role of the information system functions in a business. Chapter 2 started with the TELUS social learning case study. The problem that was trying to be looked at or solved was the need to capture employee knowledge because 40% of the workforce was nearing retirement. The question we need to ask is how do we get that information and knowledge out of people's heads and into a location where people can learn from that and take over as people are retiring? One of the solutions proposed by TELUS was that new technology for collaborative knowledge sharing. The company implemented Microsoft SharePoint Server 2010. Sorry for the typo there. It provided a company-wide platform for collaboration. For those of you who don't know Microsoft SharePoint is a more like a intranet type site that stores any kind of documentations, videos, basically any information that can be shared amongst all employees within an organization. People can check out documents, make changes, and check them back in. What's really nice about SharePoint is that it has versioning. So if somebody makes a change and somebody doesn't agree with it, that document can always be resorted back to a current version or a previous version. This really demonstrated the IT's role in the collaboration and documenting of knowledge. It also illustrates the need for changing organizational culture and business processes to use information systems effectively. We're going to talk about business processes. Of course, if I was talking to you, I would ask you, do you know what a business process is? They're used really heavily, especially information technology. Business process is a flow of materials, information, knowledge, includes a set of activities and steps, and may be tied to functional areas or be cross-functional. Business processes really are a flow of processes in a visual format, and we'll show an example in the next slide here. But using business processes, some examples of functional business processes, they can include manufacturing and production. Think about assembling of a product, trying to understand all the steps that are required to assemble a product. There's also sales and marketing, which allows us to identify and manage customer interactions, also to identify and target customers and that so we can market our products to. Finance and accounting processes, which create financial statements, human resources, hiring of employees, and so on. So if we think about that previous example, if we think about the previous case study, what would happen if you walked into work one day and management told you that employees could do anything at all, and that you wanted to do that day? Sorry about that. If Jimmy from production decided he wanted to work in sales, for example, and marketing, he could. If Sally, who normally works in accounting, wanted to spend the day in shipping, she could do that too. No one would have to follow any rules or any set of procedures. They could accomplish the work in any way they choose. So Sally decides that she doesn't want to use FedEx to ship out the products that day, even though the company has a contract, which saves them lots of money. She decides to use an alternate shipping service that will cost the company more and slow down the shipment significantly. She doesn't need to tell accounting about the change. So then Jimmy, let's say he decides to not use the same old packaging material when he's preparing glass bowls for movement across the country. In fact, he determines that it's faster if he just plops the bowls into a box, closes the lid, and sends it down the line. Unfortunately, his coworker, Tim, who doesn't know anything about Jimmy's decision, is responsible for answering customer complaints. Bill in accounting decides that he needs a pay raise to help pay for his upcoming vacation. Normally, he would be required to get a supervisor's approval to change any pay record, but since there aren't any established procedures, he can't just go ahead and enter a new salary into the system. While he's at it, he gives 10 of his friends pay raises also. Although Bill's friends may like the idea, the rest of the employees in the company are pretty upset, as you can imagine. As we discussed in Chapter 1, the digital firm, which means more than just plunking down computers that have all the latest bells and whistles on every desk, the digital firm must connect each functional area and each management level to one another. The data input to the system in manufacturing must be made available to sales, accounting, and shipping. Managers in the human resource department must have the access to appropriate information regardless of its origin. Information integration is the key to the digital firm. As we go through this chapter, we'll look at the types of information systems that organizations are using to bring it all together. To help distinguish between the types of functions that each one is designed to accomplish, and we fit them all together, we're going to go look at them in the context of manufacturing candy bars. Yes, candy bars. Everyone likes them, and everyone has eaten one, so they'll be easy to relate to. We'll call the company Worldwide Candy, and we'll give the candy bar a timely name of Cybernuts. So looking at business processes, you can imagine from the above scenario how quickly chaos would reign in the organization without established business processes that integrate functions throughout an organization. Processes that deliver the best product for the lowest cost in the most efficient manner are imperative to success. The way business organizes its workflows, the method it uses to accomplish these tasks, and the way it coordinates its activities among the employees, customers, and suppliers determines the business process. Organizations from the smallest one or two-person group to the largest that you can imagine must have an orderly process that all divisions can understand. No part of the organization can work in isolation from any other part. If you look at Chapter 2 and Table 2.1, you'll see it describes some typical business processes for each of the functional areas of the business. We'll see later on in this chapter how the business processes are supported by enterprise systems. So some of the examples that we're looking at in the table are manufacturing and production, sales and marketing, finance and accounting, and human resources, as I mentioned on the previous slide. So if we look at the order fulfillment process, the areas of sales, accounting, manufacturing, and production, we call those actors. And actors have the vested interest in how the system processes. Each of the square boxes within the activity process here is an activity and what happens. So for instance, sales initiates the whole process by generating an order. They submit the order. Accounting then gets that order, and then they check for credit on their customers. They can approve or deny credit. If they approve the credit, they can begin assembling the product even before they generate the invoice. And that's what the down arrow there means. Once they start assembling the product, once that's done, then they ship the product. So this is a fine example of a business process model. Some processes that may have contributed to an organization's success have now outgrown their usefulness. So if we look at information systems, that can help an organization recognize processes that may need to be changed. So if, go back to this slide here, if any of these processes need to change, an information system could be used to automate some of these processes or even help managers determine that they are no longer needed. And a successful organization will use this information system to determine which processes are working well. Even though we have process models in place, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be relevant for eternity. Things happen, things get designed, things get implemented that make it a requirement, as you will, to make changes to the current business processes. The key to using information systems to analyze, change, automate, or delete processes is the organization must determine the appropriateness of the recommendations and must determine the right questions. Throwing a newfangled computer system into the supposed problem is really not the answer. And answering the wrong question with a good answer can be far more devastating to the bottom line than not doing anything at all. In other words, if a system says a process should be changed, but it truly doesn't make sense to change it, then don't. The system should supply the recommendations. Humans still have the ultimate decision-making responsibility. And information system enhances business processes in one of two ways. It increases the efficiency of existing processes by automating them. It enables entirely new processes that are capable of transforming the business by changing the flow of information. So if we start looking at the different types of information systems, There is no one single information system that will satisfy all of the needs of an organization. At first glance, it can be difficult to comprehend all the different systems in a business, and even more difficult to understand how they relate to one another. You'll see at the end of this discussion the integral role each type of system plays, from determining what kind of candy bar to make, the strategic level systems, and how many people the company will need to make that candy bar, which is also known as the management level systems. So looking at transaction processing systems, the operational level of an organization includes various units such as the order processing, the material movement control, the payroll, accounts payable, employee record keeping, and so on. This level is responsible for the daily operations of an organization. The information systems used in this level of organizations are called transaction processing systems. So called because they record the routine transactions that take place everyday operations. Transaction processing systems, or TPS, combine data in various ways to fulfill the hundreds of information needs that a company requires to be successful. The data can be very detailed at this level. For instance, a TPS will record how many pounds of sugar are used in making our Cybernuts candy bar. It also records the time that it takes from beginning to end to make that candy bar. And it can record the number of people that work on the assembly line when our candy bar is made and what functions they all perform. People using transaction processing systems usually need information to help them answer routine questions such as, how many Cybernut candy bars did we produce yesterday? Or how much sugar did it take to make the candy bar? Although there's more to making Cybernuts bar than just running the assembly line, a TPS will record the sales and marketing transactions as well. The system will record not just the number of dollars used in the marketing program, but also how many stores are actually stocking this candy bar and where the product is located inside the stores. You have to remember that a lot of work is required to get a product from manufacturing plant to the store shelves. How much did the company pay to package the product, store the product, and ship the candy bars to the stores? All that data can be recorded in a TPS, right down to how many truck drivers are required to deliver products to a local convenience store. As you can visualize, the operational level of an organization also includes functions not directly associated with the actual production of the Cybernuts bar, but vital in keeping the company running smoothly. The people in accounting may not be pouring the chocolate over the nuts on the assembly line, but those workers that do appreciate the fact that they get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Production workers also like to know that the Human Resource Division is keeping track of training programs that may help them advance within the company. Each of these divisions requires an information system that helps to track the many details to make the production worker happy and productive. The best transaction processing system will be integrated throughout the organization to supply useful information to those who need it when they need it. Here's a good example of a payroll TPS. If we look at the little cylinder here, this really indicates that it's a data store. So this is employee file database. It feeds the payroll system, which produces online queries that talk back and forth to the payroll system, and outputs management reports. Government agencies can interact with the payroll system for government regulation purposes. Employee paychecks, usually done by ADP or some other outside agency, needs to tie the payroll system so that those paychecks can be cut and employees being paid. So if we look at systems for business intelligence, think about the functions of managers that you may have learned about in other classes. Directing, controlling, communicating, planning, and decision making. Each manager takes on these roles countless times in a day. Managers review endless amounts of data that make their jobs easier and more efficient. Businesses and organizations collect billions and billions of pieces of data on everything from customers to suppliers to business partners. Collecting this data is the easy part, almost too easy. Once the data are collected, it's much more difficult for managers and executives to actually use them to make smart decisions. That conundrum has given rise to business intelligence software applications. These are used to help users make sense of all that data. Decision makers can discern hidden patterns and trends in the data and to use that information to the organization's benefit. So if we look at management information systems, these are designed to produce information on a periodic basis instead of on a daily, recurring basis, like those using transaction processing systems. Managers also require the information on an exception basis. That is, they need to know if production is higher or lower than the targeted rate or if they are over or under their budgets. They also need to know about trends instead of straight numbers. The question they may ask the system would be, how far beyond the production are we for this quarter? Or, how many more workers would we need to, if we were to increase production by, let's say, 10,000 candy bars per quarter? Or, if we do adopt a new CyberNet recipe, what positions are open for the 25 excess workers, and what skills do they possess that the company can use elsewhere? Before integrated systems, managers received periodic printout reports that gave them lots of data, but often didn't supply information that they could utilize to making timely decisions. Planning was sometimes a wasted effort because the information the managers needed just wasn't there when they needed it. If there's a problem getting a shipment out to the convenience store in Paducah, Kentucky, the shipping manager may not have known about it until a customer canceled her account 6 months later. The Human Resources Department manager would likely not be able to find out about a new job opportunity in a different part of the company until after the workers were laid off and had found other employment. Hey, worse yet, production might have to stop the assembly lines because accounting hadn't purchased enough supplies to cover the increase in the number of candy bars rolling off the line. With the integration of information systems up and down the managerial levels and throughout the corporation, managers can often get needed information in real-time mode. The data are kept online. The system can gather the precise information managers need to make a decision, and the information can be cross-integrated into all departments of the company. All divisions of the company can see what's going on throughout the corporation. Information can be passed from department to department so that they all are working on the same page. The bottom line is, a management information system is used by managers throughout the organizations to help them in directing, planning, coordinating, communicating, and decision making. The MIS, Management Information System, will help answer structured questions on a periodic basis. So if we look at the different types of systems here, we have the order processing system, the materials resource planning system, and a general ledger system. Remember I was saying these cylinders here? These cylinders are the data stores. So for instance, data stored in the data sales files. Materials resource planning can be in the unit product cost data and the product change data. And then finally, general ledger data could be stored in the expense data. The MIS system captures all this information, links it together to generate reports or to produce online displays and dashboards, and then managers can access those to make their decisions. A sample MIS report. In this report we can see the different product codes with their description, where they were sold in which sales region, what the actual sales were, the planned sales, and the actual versus planned. Can you think of why actual versus planned is needed? This is one of the most important questions that finance has to deal with. If actual versus planned is way off, let's say in this example on the first line here, actual sales were $4.06 million, but planned was $4.8 million. That's quite a bit off. What happens when actual sales are a lot less than planned? Well, if inventory was bought, supplies were bought to make a product, then we have too many supplies. Or if we scheduled a lot of employees to work to generate enough product for $4.8 million, we may have too many people working the lines, and so therefore we're overspending on products that we aren't selling. So that's what these reports tell us, and we can continually adjust. Usually plans are done at an annual basis, but that's not to say they can't be changed throughout the year. If managements are experiencing a difference in plan versus actual, they can readjust those numbers and adjust the resources and adjust the materials on order and so on, so that way they're not paying anything extra beyond what they're producing. So if we look at decision support systems, they're also known as DSS. These serve the management level of an organization, but in a somewhat different way from an MIS. An MIS uses the internal data to supply useful information. A DSS uses internal data, but also combines with it external data to help analyze various decisions that managers can make. Analyzing complex interactive decisions is the primary reason for a company to use decision support systems. The sales and marketing management of worldwide candy would use a decision support system to answer a semi-structured question such as, I don't know, let's say, what price should we charge for Cybernuts candy bar? So that we can maximize our profits, minimize our costs, and still remain competitive. By using the decision support system, a manager in charge of the manufacturing division could determine the best answer to the semi-structured question of how does a change in the size and packaging of Cybernuts candy bar affect other products we produce, not just in shipping, but also on the display shelf at a convenience store. You will notice that we describe decisions at this level as semi-structured. Not all decisions required for an organization to function smoothly are cut and dry. There are a lot of gray areas in successfully managing an organization, and the larger the company, the more diverse the decision-making process becomes. As a company is affected not only by what goes on solely within a company, but also by external factors not under its control, decision support systems can help upper-level management. What happens to the pricing structure and availability of raw materials for the Cybernuts bar if a civil war breaks out in the sugar-producing countries of Central America? The price of electricity can greatly affect the profit and loss of Cybernuts bar. Fluctuating gasoline prices affect the profit margins by increasing or decreasing the distribution costs of a product. All these external events can be put into context in the decision support system so that worldwide management can make effective decisions. Again, the bottom line. Decision support systems are used for complex what-if questions that require internal and external data. Decisions at the management level are mostly semi-structured so that information systems must respond to the unique requirements of the executives. So speaking of executives, they have their own support system. These ESSs, or executive support systems, are used at the very upper echelons of management. At the strategic level, the typical decision is very unstructured. Often there are no specific questions, but rather a series of undefined situations executives must face. There are no easy, definable answers. These executives require summarized, historical information, gleaned from all other levels of an organization, coupled with large amounts of external data, gathered from many different sources. Let's assume that Cybernuts bar is the most successful, most popular candy bar ever made. You could say its success is due to the effective use of previous three information systems. The Universal Food Product Corporation just can't create a product that comes close to the success of Cybernuts. Their information systems aren't as good, and is very envious of worldwide candy. So Universal Food Products offers to buy the Cybernuts product from worldwide for what seems to be an astronomical amount of money. Worldwide executives can use the executive support system to determine if this offer is in the best interest of all. They can analyze the information gathered from all the internal systems and couple that with the external data to help them make the decisions. With an executive support system, company executives can make their decisions based on information, not on emotion. So senior executives often access information through the use of a portal. Basically, a portal is a web interface designed to present integrated, personalized business content from a variety of sources. As executives haven't been used to computers that long or don't have the time to fiddle around learning how to type, executive support systems are used as digital dashboards to make the system easy to use and provide information in a real-time mode. The ESS must be able to incorporate external information with internal data and offer concise, complete information for the imprecise and incomplete scenarios that executives often face. You know, it's not unusual to find an organization with 3 or more different information systems that act as islands. The systems don't exchange information very well, if at all. Accounting and finance may have a system that serves their needs very well, but they can't collect the information from the systems used by manufacturing and production. Sales and marketing is doing its own thing with its system and losing valuable information from other systems, which could help do a better job. Enterprise applications. No business can afford disjointed information systems that don't work together to produce a coherent picture of the entire organization. All the functions of a business must be integrated across traditional lines of demarcation. Islands of information can be devastating to a company if data cannot be shared throughout the company. Even worse, the islands of information can create problems if each faction of an enterprise has differing information that conflicts with other islands of information. These kinds of problems are what give rise to the enterprise applications that share the same data anywhere it's needed in the organization. As networks of all kinds take hold, from the internet to the intranet to extranets, web-based enterprise applications are increasingly widespread. The following sections are an overview of 4 major enterprise applications: the enterprise, supply chain management, customer relationship management, and knowledge management system. We'll also study each of these systems in depth in future chapters. Enterprise systems, also known as enterprise resource planning systems, are used to bridge the communication gap between all departments and all users of information within a company. If the worldwide candy company production departments enters information without processes, the data are available to accounting, sales, and human resources. If sales and marketing is planning a new advertising campaign for the Cybernuts candy bar, anyone, anywhere within the organization will have access to that information. Enterprise systems truly allow a company to use information as a vital resource and enhance the bottom line. The greatest enticement of enterprise systems is the chance to cut costs firm-wide and enhance the ability to pass information throughout the organization. The biggest drawback to building enterprise information systems are time, money, and people. Because the installation of a system is so invasive, it takes a tremendous amount of time to install the hardware and software, to train the people to use it, and rework business processes that will then inevitably change. Many companies find it more trouble than they care to handle.
At the FedEx Memphis World Hub, the amount of people and equipment and packages that come together is simply phenomenal.
I pulled up!
Memphis, it is the largest cargo airport in the world due to FedEx's inbound and outbound poundage. Just to drive from one end to the other, the Memphis World Hub complex takes about 20 minutes. So it's very large, well over 550 acres, about 179 jet aircraft gates. FedEx has the largest air cargo fleet in the world. We've got about 15 million square feet of sort space.
Let's go!
It is hard to get a grasp on the magnitude of what we do every night. There are 7,500 associates that work for the night sort, 3,500 associates for the day sort, and about 3,000 support personnel. And about 2.2 million packages a day come through the Memphis World Hub. When a package arrives at the Memphis Hub and is placed on a conveyor belt, that package is then scanned and measured by a light curtain. When the package is scanned, it will tell us tons of information. Who shipped the package? How much does the package weigh? What's the destination of the package? After that scanned package leaves the primary matrix, it'll be sorted at least 2 more times before it makes its way into an outbound container and transported to the outbound airplane for departure. I think when this company started years ago, nobody had in mind the concept would be where it is today, and it's simply mind-boggling. It's exciting every night. I mean, what's in these packages, it could be life-saving medicine for a patient. It could be a bride's wedding dress that she's anxiously awaiting. It could be somebody's mortgage payment so they don't lose their home. We've got to take care of all those customers, and we do. We do a great job.
So based on that previous video that we just showed there on how FedEx works, these are now your a group or your individual assignment or individual participation questions. If you could just answer one of these questions in the discussion forum for individual participation, You can list the business processes that are displayed in the video. List the types of information systems shown in the video. Can you describe how systems that were not shown might be used at FedEx? The system displayed in the video is an enterprise system. Why is this true? Explain your answer. What are the risks and benefits of having a single super hub in Memphis to coordinate the delivery of packages across the United States? And the final question that you can answer is how could FedEx's shipping process be made even more efficient? Please let me know if you have any questions on the participation questions.
That concludes part 1 of the Chapter 2 lecture. Please locate part 2 to complete the lecture. As always, please post any questions in the instructor discussion forum in the